Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. The Town of Delavan and City of Elkhorn Joint Extraterritorial Zoning Committee meeting. We will establish a quorum. Do we want to do a roll call?
Sure. Boardman,
Here.
Stocko,
Here.
Watke,
Here.
Nipper,
Here.
Neuenhuis,
Here.
Malsch.
Wonderful. I then need a motion and action to name a chairperson for this evening.
I'd like to nominate Jim Boardman.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we want a roll call?
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn into a public hearing for a conditional use permit for marine service and boat storage. Steve Smith, North Shore Development LLC, 5384 Highway 11, Elkhorn, Wisconsin, 53121, tax key FD 200002 and FD 200004C, Town of Delavan.
I make a motion to adjourn and move to public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The hearing will be, anybody that wants to speak is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. And I think we'd start with the, Mr. Smith, right? You're from the,
You don't have to, but you can, sure.
pardon?
You don't have to, but you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, let him give a presentation.
Pardon?
Let him give a presentation. Steve, let Steve give a presentation.
Yeah, is anybody here from the boat storage? Would
Steve,
you like to address it, what your plans are, so everybody knows? I know, we've been through this a week ago, I know that, so.
Yeah, I can address it again. Do they have the map?
Steve, if you could come up to one of the microphones, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, basically, I'm looking to put up 5 storage units, and a retention pond with drainage. To do basically indoor off-season storage and develop maybe a new workshop in the long term. And on the north or south side of the road on Highway 43, either build it into a retail store or develop into a strip mall type unit at some point down the road. A lot of thought went into this just for the drainage and the concept of everything, and we'll be putting a berm up so you won't be seeing the buildings. It's just south of the retention pond there, and it runs from that lot line over to the west lot line. I don't know if that mark, move it to the south a little bit more. You're on the west side right there. Go to the south, keep going right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's north, yeah.
So what?
Highway 43 is south,
Yeah.
so we want to be on the right side of the screen. Down, okay, right there. Keep going, keep going. Yeah, okay, now go in a little bit, right to the rear where the retention pond will be.
Right here?
Yeah, that's the retention pond. The berm will be on the right side of that, on the south side, all the way to that building in the center. No, that's the back. The center to you're going to the east side. From west to east, yeah, right? Keep going right up to about there. It'll be more out towards the road though. And the plan is to plant 6-foot high trees on the base, and on the top of the berm will be also pine trees too. So when the pines grow up, the other trees will cover it. You won't see anything back there. Something like a Gordy's layout. The other buildings that are there are basically, 60 by 120, or 60 by 200. Excuse me, 60 by 200, and they'll be housing indoor storage. The parking would be off-season parking, or in-season parking it doesn't show up on there, but the lines are right there in front of the buildings. So when you pull boats out, everything will be in a neat, orderly manner. And then the back left, it'd be the northwest corner of the lot there, will be for parking trailers. I guess that's basically the gist of it.
Anything else, or at least that's a brief outline?
Well, I mean, I'd rather answer the questions they have with the outline because it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just indoor storage buildings.
Yeah, but it gives us an idea of what you're gonna do, what you propose, so.
Right. It'll be just for boat storage and trailers.
Is there anyone else that wants to be heard? If you do, I'd appreciate you come up to the podium, state your name and address, and state your case.
Dennis Karbowski, 5531 Amos Road. I'm going to act as a constituent at this point. I want to let you all know that I am the District 8 Supervisor for the county. I am the one that brought all this to probably everyone's attention initially because I was opposed to what Steve was doing. And the reason for that was because he had a lot of old snowmobiles and just garbage laying around. Our intentions at that time were to have him clean it up, and he did so. And so at this time, I'm really in favor of what he is doing. He's done a great job cleaning up, and I like what he's doing. And I want everyone to keep in mind that what this was back in the 60s and in the 50s, which I was a young whippersnapper running around, as some of you may or may not know. And it always has been commercial. And so I think with that being said, I think we should allow him to do or go forward with his plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Anybody else wish to be heard?
My name's Mark Kaczynski. I live at 5441 Amos Road for the last 29 years. My lot line butts up to Mr. Smith. The lot line is part of the Delavan Lake Watershed Project. The northeast corner of my lot up to Amos Road is a watershed. Mr. Smith's lot on the northwest side is considered watershed. And I've gotten this from Steve Sinitsyn from the DNR. And that's a fact. I want to know if there's been an environmental impact study done for this project. The 50 boreholes that you said you had done must be put on the plan to show the location. He has to have a certified letter with the contractor stamp on it where the boreholes were done, the amount of time it took, because if he did 50 boreholes there, I was told it would take better part of a week, and you would know when the boring rig was there. And I never heard of boring rig. A few other things are, he has to have DNR approval for his catch basin, his drainage, and his retention pond. And he talked of a maintenance facility. He has to have state approval for that maintenance facility. How he's going to heat it, how he's going to cool it, his makeup air unit. Because the minute a mechanic walks into that shop and turns that light on, that makeup air unit must run. It gets into a whole different ball game when you're doing maintenance here. And all that has to be completed and submitted before a permit can be issued for work to start on that property. And I've been going back and forth with this for almost 3 years. It took me a year to finally get with the town of Delavan to do something about the salvage yard he was running there. And dealing with this ETZ zone is a nightmare. You go to the town of Delavan, they tell you to go to Elkhorn. You go to Elkhorn, they tell you to go to town of Delavan.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then when you do have a problem, you're stuck in the middle. You know, and the hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. I'm not going to listen to that. My wife has had a real estate license for 30 years, and she figures we're going to lose anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 in the value of our property. And that's a big chunk of our retirement nest egg. And that's something to think about here.
We are at 3 minutes, Jim.
Pardon? Out of time. Thank you, sir, for
Thank
your
you much.
input.
Hi, my name is Jolene Gallegos. I recently purchased the property at 5391 Amos Road. I bought up right behind Mr. Smith. I don't believe I have a problem with him doing business there. I have a problem now, since we've purchased this property. I have 30 or 40 loads of dirt that got dumped into his property since we've taken it over. My concern is I'm going to have water now coming into my yard, with nowhere for the water to go but to our yard now. So I'm just very concerned that he's starting to do things already without having his permits being issued. So, I mean, I don't know where else to go from there. But like I said, the dirt being poured was kind of, I don't know if it was resentment because I purchased the property, and he wasn't able to purchase it. I have issues with him saying we have no right-of-way to enter the property from the driveway that enters off of Amos, but that is a grandfathered right-of-way since in the 1950s. So other than that, as far as him doing business, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm going to have a problem with it if I get flooded out. And at this point, I think the dirt that was poured there is going to be doing that to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Clarence Cammers. I live at 1124 Amos Road, which is almost directly across the street and a little bit east of where this property is. So far, the only thing I've heard from Mr. Smith is that he's going to have a storage area. Got no qualms about a storage area for what he's going to do. However, he's going to be doing maintenance on boats. That means engines running, noise levels. They're talking about Saturdays and Sundays as well. We've got that whole Elkhorn West subdivision to worry about. Of course, I don't get a notification because I'm more than 200 feet away from the location. That noise level does not have any qualms about overseeing 200 feet. I mean, that's less than a football field, to be quite honest with you, and noise really travels. The other thing I've got a problem with is Mr. Smith bringing dirt in and pouring it in without even having any type of a permit or any type of a plan that's set forth by either the Department of Natural Resources or by your entity or the Township of Delavan. But yet he's bringing loads and loads of fill in. That fill that he's bringing in is not dirt. It's actually clay product. And if he's going to build a berm out of clay, there's going to be nothing but runoff all the time consistently. On the north side of Amos Road, directly across the street from his property, is now a natural wetland, and this has been already confirmed by the Department of Natural Resources. I talked to 2 wardens and a biologist as well this last week. They don't know nothing about it, nothing that's going on. In fact, they're looking into the situation right now. But my concern is bringing loads and loads of dirt in without having a proper permit to do so, not having a plan on how this is going to be laid out initially by any entity as far as the state government or by local government or the county government. But again, the noise level is what I'm really concerned with, because I shouldn't have to listen to boat motors on a Sunday afternoon or on a Sunday morning or even on a Saturday. If I wanted that, I'd take and go over and buy a piece of property on one of the lakes north of Elkhorn. Thank you for your consideration in the matter.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
I'm Kim Jedlicka, 2824 County Road O South, Delavan. I'm going to have to read this because I have scratched it all out. I serve as a citizen member on the Plan Commission for the town of Delavan. I met Mr. Smith about 6 months ago when he came to the township requesting a conditional use permit to construct storage buildings at the location where he has been operating his business for the past 20 years. I feel Mr. Smith has gone above and beyond to accommodate the Plan Commission's request to visit and clean up the site. He continues to keep the lines of communication open with his neighbors regarding his plans to enhance his business. As a member of the Plan Commission, I believe it is important we are consistent when placing conditions on requests. The conditions in front of you, which I'm not sure if we can read because they would address some of the questions that the citizens currently have regarding hours and noise levels and things like that, when I'm finished. But the conditions in front of you are consistent with those of other businesses in the town of Delavan, like Mr. Smith's. I believe these conditions address concerns neighbors have, as I indicated, the hours of operation. And at this time, I respectfully request that you approve the recommended conditional use permit in front of you as written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would she like to submit her letter for the record? Would she like to submit a copy of her letter for the record? Because she read a
Yeah.
letter.
Can you submit a copy of that letter for the record? So we have it on file, please. Anybody else wishing to be heard?
You can close the public hearing if no one else wants.
Well,
Give it 3 tries.
should we have anything from the zoning officer on the hearing or no?
I think that would be more appropriate during item 6.
Oh, okay. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
My name is Jay Anderson. I live on the Amos farm on Amos Road. I was on that farm when I was 10, 12 years old helping Mr. Amos. Now, as far as this lady's concerned about a wet lawn, that house was built in a swamp. Okay, so she's going to be wet no matter what. As far as the retention pond across the street, that was dug when they put Sedge Meadow subdivision in. The operator of the machine told me that the clay field tile were flying all over the place when they were digging that. Now, the house that I live in has a wet basement. It was never wet before. So you can think about that for a minute. As far as the noise concerned, I can hear the neighbors mowing their lawn. Have I come and complained about that? No, it's during daylight hours. I don't see anything wrong with you making noise with your lawnmower during the day. At night, I would complain, yes. Palmer and Dunbar was there in the 40s. It's been commercial ever since I can remember. And I'm old now. But that has never changed. It's always been commercial. It was an Oliver tractor dealer to start with. It was a farm store like Farm and Barn over in Delavan when Byron Palmer had it. And now it's a heating company in there and Steve. And they are doing absolutely nothing to the environment, to the neighbors. These people say, you're going to lose money on my house. How can that happen when it was there when you bought the house? There's a lot of talk around here today. I wasn't going to get up and talk, I'll be honest with you, but I just can't let this go. There's too many Mickey Mouse complaints going on here. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? Second call, anybody else wishing to be heard? Third and final call for anybody wishing to be heard. I declare the public hearing closed. Now, do we go into a closed session to?
No,
No.
this would be a time to discuss and ask Allison questions about her
Okay.
recommendations.
Allison, can you have answers for any of the questions that came up?
Sure. So tonight we are just revisiting the application that we saw last month. Nothing on that application has changed. Nothing on the site plan has changed. Everything that you see in front of you tonight is the exact same item that came before us the last time we met. We just needed to make sure that we redid the public hearing tonight. So with that being said, my recommendation for approval with the following conditions listed in my staff report still stands. In terms of some of the concerns that were discussed and brought up this evening, the home or property owner, homeowner, property owner, business owner is responsible for obtaining all proper permits. So that would be the owner's responsibility to ensure that they have all state permits, all DNR permits, all building permits, and all zoning permits. That's a requirement that stands for any applicant that comes before this commission. So that would be the owner's responsibility to ensure that he's getting all of the applicable permits needed. In terms of state permits, the Town of Delavan building inspector will request those state permits before he issues his own local permits. So that should be addressed. The hours of operation was a condition that was approved by the Town of Delavan Plan Commission, and that at the last meeting, our joint commission agreed upon, which shall be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week, with no outside boat motor operation after 9:15. I think the intention of that is to allow boats to be coming and going during those times, 7 days a week. I don't think that it is the applicant's intention to be wanting to run a boat motor at 5:45 at night on a Sunday. I think that the intention is to have boats coming and going, getting in and out of the water, on and off the lake. Because I do believe he provides launch services on the Town of Delavan Lake. If there's any other concerns that I missed, you can certainly ask any further questions. But also please be aware that the applicant is also still responsible for adhering to all City of Elkhorn ordinances and all Town of Delavan ordinances. So if the applicant is ever indeed in violation of his conditional use permit or in violation of any noise or odor ordinance within the town or city, we would fully enforce that.
So if everybody understands that, it is not up to the ETZ board of Elkhorn or Town of Delavan to demand or require that he has to have a permit from the DNR. But if he needs one, then it's up to the building inspector of the Town of Delavan to make sure that is in order to satisfy the neighbors on their question of being part of the watershed. So that's not up to this board to make that determination or to issue or deny because of that. Any discussion by any of the board members?
I would like to make a motion that we table this
conditional use and send it back to the town of Delavan for reconsideration.
Is there a second to that motion?
That motion.
Is there any discussion?
Well, I mean, it's the town of Delavan, so I guess it's their interpretation, and I guess I'd ask for a roll call vote then of the 5 members.
But you want to make sure if there's any other discussion of the motion before you ask for a vote.
Yeah.
The concern I have this evening is I learned new information that did not come up during the meetings at the town of Delavan, one of which that it sounds as though that work on that property has already started and all the permits aren't complete. Second is there was someone that spoke that has purchased a residence on Amos, and I didn't quite understand her statement that she has been denied access to that residence. These are unknown to us, and I think they do beg more research, understanding of those particular aspects. Those were not known at the time it came before Delavan. It certainly wasn't known when we came here last time. And I think this is an important matter, and I think it needs to come back to us with new information.
Am I allowed to comment on any of this?
If the chair recognizes you.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, the property of Jojo's that bought the property on Amos Road there, when I looked at, and the surveyor got the title description and everything to do their site permit, or do the site development, there was no easement. It says right on the title commitment. The title company goofed up. It's been straightened out. There is an easement on there. In fact, there's 27 easements on that property. They're mostly utilities, but they have an easement to come into the driveway, but not to park. They can come in, go into their property, and that's it. They're technically, ever since I went and found that out, I haven't said a word to anybody. I mean, basically, it's do what you gotta do to park. I was gonna put a gate up where I was going to, but that's gonna make me move it back further than it is now, that's all. As far as the easement goes. As far as the dirt goes that was brought in there, that dirt came from the marina at Delavan Lake, out of the project that's going on down there now. And that is there not to block her off or flood her place out at all, because there's a drainage, part of the drainage systems right there that drain that lot. Because I was draining the whole lot from that position when the retention pond goes in. It's in the drawing on the board if you want to look at it, but that dirt is just to bring the level up to where the road is going to actually go down that side there. As far as the DNR goes, I've talked with them. It's true, you need a permit to do a project, but not to bring fill in if it's less than an acre. So right now, most of that fill is just being stored. It'll be leveled out probably in the next week and a half, or any to the left, to the south, to fill in the low spot, and then all the dirt that comes out of the retention pond and any excess stuff will be put up on the berm. And other than that, that's about it for that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, and the motion is to table it.
Can I make a comment, Jim?
Pardon?
May I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I will just say that I was aware of the dirt that was brought in on site. I did perform an inspection the same day that a complaint was received on the dirt that was brought in. I was made aware that the dirt would not be moving and that it would just sit. It has sat. No projects have started on site. So there is a dirt pile in the rear of the property sitting currently. But I or the DNR did not have concerns with it at that time. I also followed up with our city engineer, who did not have concerns with it at that time, and stated that we would need to contact the DNR if we had further concern. So I did do an inspection. I was on site there. I'm not aware of the easements that are on the property. And I think, as the committee, I would advise to not get involved between the easement agreements between neighbors. And that's not the agenda item tonight, but the agenda item is in fact to take action on a conditional use permit for a business.
Okay, the motion and second was made by the two ETC members from town of Delavan to table and send it back to the town of Delavan for reconsideration. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ask for a roll call vote.
Newhouse,
Aye.
Nipper,
Aye.
Watke,
No.
Stocko,
No.
Boardman,
No.
motion failed.
Motion has been denied. Do we have any other discussion, any other motions to come before us?
I would like to make another motion. I would like to add one condition to the conditional use conditions. And that would be that the conditions must be posted in a conspicuous place in his place of business so that his employees and future employees will know what the conditions are.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion was to grant the conditional use with the posting of all the conditions in his place of business.
I didn't hear him say he was making a motion to grant.
I didn't make that motion. I made the motion just to add that to the conditions.
Okay, that would be the condition, one of the conditions of, okay, so now we need a motion.
So that was the motion. Then what you need is a second.
Okay, do we have a second? And we had a second from
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Whitkin.
I remember that now.
All right. So the motion is to grant that condition, to grant the,
Add that
To add a
condition.
yeah, have that condition on the issuance. I will ask for another roll call vote.
Newhouse,
Aye.
Nipper,
Aye.
Watke,
Yes.
Stocko,
Yes.
Boardman.
Yes. Motion is carried.
I make a motion to approve this conditional use with staff recommendations. Anything else?
Yeah, and the amendment. that you
And
just
the
read.
amendment.
Second
the
to that
conditions.
motion?
I'll second.
Ask for a third roll call vote.
Before you do that, just one question for Allison. Allison, I see on the conditions that there's a limit of 70 boats. Are there any other limitations, restrictions on any of the other potential, trailers, lifts, motors, any other storage outside, or is it unlimited? Just 'cause I know that's been a concern is the exterior storage. So are there any other restrictions on other types of items that might be stored outside?
I don't believe there were any listed conditions on like the amount of trailers or anything like that, or piers or lifts. I don't think there were conditions that were set on those items. I know the site plan does show that there would be parking for 30 trailers in the rear of the property.
Can I ask one other question of Allison?
Any other?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Allison, there was comment in the meeting tonight about boreholes. I wanted to have you address that, just so I know that the public is aware that you've considered it.
I have not seen that report, and I have not looked at it or researched it. As part of zoning approval, that's not really something that I would look at, as the zoning administrator would be the ground or soils, as I don't have any expertise in that.
That would not be a condition that this ETZ board is in charge of. I mean, that's a DNR, and that's the owner's responsibility to make sure he has that, and the town of Delavan is not gonna issue a permit if he doesn't comply with it.
Right, I can't speak for the town of Delavan building inspector, but I think, those are more items that maybe the DNR, the state, or the building inspector would look at in more detail versus me. I look at more of, is he meeting all business requirements? Is he meeting setback requirements of all the buildings, and that sort of thing?
I would ask for a vote on the motion before us to approve the conditional use.
Can we just make sure that there's no additional questions or discussion before that vote? I just want to make sure that no one feels that they didn't, on the
Yeah.
board, didn't get an opportunity to make their comments.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to ask Allison, when you said that in the process of looking at the piles of dirt, and also, did you say that the DNR was notified about this and had no issues with it? Was that clear?
The DNR did not have any issues when I had contacted them. They had no concern, and they did let me know that they received a complaint from a citizen as well.
Okay, because there is a concern that is in the watershed, and there were other issues, so I did not know that the DNR knew about this, and also the fact that soil that was there's no issue with that either. Is that correct?
Not on my end, not with it just sitting there, if the project were to begin. But typically when fill comes in small amounts, and I mean, this is not a mass amount of dirt, but if fill comes in small amounts, there's usually no concern on my end.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I did double check and confirm also that there's no wetland, there's no DNR wetland in that area of the property where the dirt was dumped. That's one of the concerns is, of course, if it was a wetland, we would want to make sure that no dirt was put in there at all. But I did double check that too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, on the motion to approve with conditions, I would ask for a vote. Roll call.
Noonhouse,
No.
Nipper,
Aye.
Watke,
Yes,
Stocko,
Yes.
Boardman.
Yes. Motion is carried. I will call this meeting to a close.
make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion is made to adjourn. Second? All those in favor say aye.
On a
Wait,
second.
Wait, what?
Did we have a discussion regarding the concept review? Did we?
No.
Okay, so
We
we
have-
need to take care of
we-
item number 7
Yep.
Yes.
before we adjourn.
Yes, thank you.
So I would ask that someone withdraw the motion to adjourn
I withdraw my motion to adjourn.
and the second.
Second.
Sorry, I didn't
Okay.
catch that fast enough. My apologies.
So- Now,
Concept review.
So typically, this would be an Allison review to provide information to the board.
Yes, so this goes along, the concept review does go along with the conditional use permit. I believe you have all seen and reviewed the site plan, and as I stated, the site plan has not changed at all. So if you are in favor of the site plan placed in front of you tonight, we would also need a vote to approve that.
to approve the site plan.
Concept review. Concept review
Concept review.
on the site plan.
Do we have a motion to approve the site plan?
The concept of the site plan.
The concept, okay.
I make a motion to approve the concept of the site plan.
Second,
I've got a motion, second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Noonhouse,
Yes.
Nipper,
Yes.
Watke,
yes.
Stocko,
Yes.
Boardman.
Yes. Motion carried.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.